The wedding hall was bathed in soft candlelight, shimmering like a fragile dream. Emma stood at the altar, her breath caught between hope and dread. She heard the whispered confession before the world spun out of control. Michael's voice trembled. "I can't go through with this. I'm sorry, Emma." Gasps rippled through the crowd, but her mind was frozen. The ring slipped from her trembling hand onto the marble floor, shattering the silence. The groom's eyes avoided hers, a secret burning behind them. She wanted to scream, to run, but her legs betrayed her. Then from the back, a small child whispered, "That's not my mom." Emma's heart fractured. The whispered words were a final blow, a mystery unraveling in the purest moment of betrayal. The air was thick with shock, tears blending with the fading music. Time slowed as she realized everything she believed was a lie. The room blurred into chaos, and Emma's life shattered in that single breath. After the nightmare at the altar, Emma retreated to the dim hotel room, the door closing like a tomb sealing her world. She sank onto the edge of the bed, her hands trembling as memories crashed over her. Michael's betrayal wasn't just a moment, it was 1,000 knives twisting inside her. She whispered to the empty room, "How could you do this to me?" Her voice cracked, swallowed by the silence. Outside, the rain began to tap against the window, mirroring the storm in her heart. Every droplet was a reminder of the life she thought they'd build, now washed away. She clutched a worn photograph, fingers tracing the smiles frozen in happier times. The room was cold, shadows growing longer, and Emma's breath slowed, caught in the grip of despair. Somewhere deep inside, a flicker of defiance sparked. Could she ever reclaim herself from the ruins Michael left behind? The morning brought no relief. Emma's phone buzzed relentlessly, messages flashing with pity and disbelief. She barely heard them. Instead, she stared blankly at the ceiling that had witnessed her dreams shatter. The city outside buzzed with life, indifferent to her pain. A knock at the door startled her. A soft voice said, "Emma, are you okay?" It was Lily, her best friend, worry etched in every word. Emma forced a weak smile, saying, "I'm fine, just tired." But the truth was raw and bleeding. She didn't want to be fine. She wanted answers, or at least an escape from the ruins. Lily sat beside her, silent but steady, a lifeline in the storm. Emma's mind raced with questions. How could the man she loved become a stranger? Could trust ever be rebuilt, or was this the end of everything? Days passed, each one heavier than the last. Emma wandered the city streets, trying to outrun the suffocating weight of betrayal. Shops bustled, strangers laughed, but none saw the storm raging inside her. At a quiet cafe, she met a man who recognized the shadow in her eyes. His words were cautious. "Sometimes the hardest person to forget is the one who broke you." Emma's breath caught. The truth stung sharper than she wanted. Could she admit that she still longed for Michael, even after the ruin? As dusk painted the sky with bruised purples and reds, she felt the pull of a life she no longer knew how to live. Between the ruins of Heartbreak and the faint hope of healing, Emma stood at a fragile crossroads, unsure which path to take. That night, Emma sat alone by the window of her small apartment, the city lights flickering like distant stars. Her thoughts spiraled through memories of Michael, their laughter, the promises, and the betrayals. "I hate you," she whispered, "but I can't live without you." The confession hung heavy in the air, a fragile truth she barely admitted to herself. The phone lay silent beside her, unopened. Outside, a gentle breeze rustled the curtains, and Emma closed her eyes, torn between breaking free and falling deeper into the love that ruined her. Her heart ached with the cruel contradiction of needing what hurt her most. Somewhere in the quiet night, she vowed to find a way to either reclaim her life or lose it completely. Emma's days became a battle of wills. She wrestled with the shadows of betrayal that haunted her every step. The streets felt colder now, the laughter of strangers a harsh reminder of her solitude. She tried to bury the pain beneath forced smiles and hollow conversations. Yet every quiet moment pulled her back to Michael's words. the betrayal etched deep like an invisible scar. At night, the silence screamed louder than any accusation. She clung to the hope that time might heal, but doubt crept in like a creeping fog. Was forgiveness even possible? Or was she doomed to carry this wound forever? The city skyline, once full of promise, now loomed like a cage. Still, beneath the weight of despair, a fragile strength began to flicker, a small flame refusing to be extinguished. One afternoon, Emma found herself back at the park where she and Michael had shared their first kiss. The bench was worn, the air thick with memories. She touched the faded wood, feeling the weight of everything lost. A gentle breeze stirred leaves around her, whispering stories she wasn't ready to hear. Suddenly, Michael appeared in the distance, his silhouette unmistakable against the autumn light. Heart pounding, Emma froze. His eyes met hers with an intensity that both comforted and terrified her. Words hung unsaid, tangled in years of love and pain. She wanted to run but stayed rooted, the past and present colliding in the golden afternoon. In that suspended moment, everything felt possible, and yet impossibly fragile. The confrontation was inevitable. Michael stood before Emma, his expression a complex mix of regret and longing. "I never wanted to hurt you," he said quietly. Emma's voice trembled. "Then why did you?" The question hung heavy, loaded with broken promises and shattered trust. Tears welled up, but she held them back, desperate for clarity. He explained things she wasn't ready to hear, secrets and mistakes tangled like a dark web. As his words spilled out, Emma felt her anger burn, but also a painful flicker of understanding. Forgiveness was a distant shore, but maybe, just maybe, it was not unreachable. The air between them was charged, a fragile truce forming in the rubble of their past. Days later, Emma found herself wandering the beach at sunset, waves crashing rhythmically against the shore. The vastness of the ocean mirrored the turmoil inside her. She let the salty wind whip through her hair as she walked barefoot on the cool sand. Memories of laughter and tears intertwined, blurring the lines between love and pain. With each crashing wave, she released a little more of the past's hold. The horizon was painted in hues of fiery orange and soft pink, a quiet promise of renewal. She realized healing wouldn't come in a straight line, but in moments like this, fragile, painful, yet filled with possibility. The tide might wash away footprints, but the ocean would always remain, just like the scars she carried. Back in her apartment, Emma sat surrounded by memories, photographs, mementos, echoes of a life once shared. She picked up a letter Michael had left on the kitchen table. His handwriting was shaky, heartfelt. "I'm sorry for everything. I hope we can find a way back." Her fingers traced the words, a storm of emotions raging inside. Could she trust him again? The walls seemed to close in, but a quiet resolve took root. Emma knew she had to decide, to let go of the past or to fight for a love tangled in pain and hope. Her heart ached with the weight of choice, but she was no longer just a victim. She was becoming the author of her own story, ready to face whatever came next. Emma's decision weighed heavy in her chest as she prepared to confront her future. The room around her was quiet, save for the ticking clock echoing her racing thoughts. Michael's apology letter rested on the table, its words haunting and hopeful. She wondered if the past could truly be mended, or if the wounds were too deep. The phone buzzed with his name, stirring a whirlpool of emotions. Could trust be rebuilt one fragile step at a time? The sunlight filtering through the curtains painted patterns of light and shadow, mirroring her conflicted heart. As she took a deep breath, she knew this moment marked a turning point, between clinging to pain or embracing uncertain forgiveness. The weight of choice was hers alone. Meeting Michael again felt like stepping into a storm both familiar and unpredictable. They chose a quiet cafe, away from prying eyes and memories too sharp to endure in public. Words stumbled out, apologies, confessions, and the heavy silence of things unsaid. Emma searched his eyes for truth, and found traces of regret and vulnerability. The past no longer felt like a cage but a shadow they could face together or apart. She realized healing wasn't about forgetting but choosing to face pain with courage. Every glance between them held a fragile hope, a tentative bridge across broken ground. The road ahead was uncertain, but neither was willing to walk it alone yet. Later that evening, Emma sat on her balcony watching city lights flicker to life like distant stars. Michael's words echoed in her mind, imperfect but sincere. She allowed herself to imagine a future where pain could coexist with love, where mistakes didn't define them but taught them. The cool night breeze stirred memories and hopes alike. She wrapped her arms around herself, feeling both vulnerable and strangely empowered. Forgiveness wasn't an erasure but an acceptance. She understood now that love was not a perfect story, but a series of choices made every day. The skyline sparkled with possibility, a quiet witness to her awakening heart. The next day brought clarity amid the chaos of emotions. And Emma met Michael at the city park, their steps in sync though silence lingered. She took a deep breath and spoke honestly, about pain, forgiveness and fear. Michael listened, eyes reflecting gratitude and determination. They spoke of rebuilding slowly, with no promises but commitment to try. The park's gentle breeze seemed to carry away some of the heaviness, leaves swirling softly around them. It was not a fairy tale reunion, but a real beginning, fragile, honest, and painfully hopeful. In that quiet moment, both knew healing was not a destination, but a journey walked together. As dusk settled, Emma and Michael stood on the edge of a quiet riverbank, the water reflecting fading light like shards of glass. They paused, hands brushing, silent acknowledgement of the road behind and ahead. Neither knew what the future held, but this moment felt like a fragile promise, that love could be born again from ashes if both dared to believe. Emma's heart no longer felt shattered, but whole in its imperfection. She realized that life's greatest risk was to open again after heartbreak, and in that risk lay true strength. The night deepened, stars emerging one by one as they turned to walk home together, step by tentative step. The morning light spilled through the kitchen window, casting soft gold across Emma's face. She stood at the counter, coffee steaming gently, feeling a calm she hadn't known in months. The past still whispered its shadows, but today was about new beginnings. Michael was already in the living room, absorbed in a book, his presence steady yet tentative. Their journey wasn't perfect, and neither was their story, but it was theirs to write. Emma smiled softly, knowing forgiveness was a choice she made every day. The fragile hope between them was no longer a question, it was a quiet promise to heal together. Outside, birds sang, as if nature itself celebrated this fragile rebirth. Later, Emma and Michael walked hand in hand through the bustling farmer's market, the scent of fresh bread and blooming flowers weaving through the air. People around them smiled, caught in their own stories, unaware of the fragile new chapter unfolding here. The colors of ripe fruit and vibrant blooms mirrored Emma's lifted spirit. Their conversations were light but honest, laughter blending with the hum of the crowd. Michael's touch was gentle but sure, grounding her in the present. This was not a fairy tale, but the beauty of imperfect love, flawed, real, and growing stronger in every shared moment. That evening the city's skyline shimmered beyond the window as Emma and Michael prepared dinner together. The kitchen buzzed with warmth, the aroma of herbs and spices blending with their soft chatter. The simple act of cooking felt like a ritual of reconnection, hands brushing as they passed utensils, smiles growing more genuine. Emma glanced at Michael, feeling gratitude for the man willing to face his past and build a future. The room glowed in golden lamplight, shadows dancing as night settled in. Here, in this ordinary moment, lay the extraordinary, the fragile, steady rebuilding of trust and love. Later, as they settled on the couch with a quiet movie playing, Emma rested her head on Michael's shoulder. The silence between them was comfortable now, a language of trust and healing. She traced patterns on his arm, feeling the steady beat of his heart. The past still echoed faintly but no longer held power over their present. Forgiveness had opened a door, and they stepped through it together, hand in hand. The flickering screen painted their faces in soft light, shadows blending like their lives, once fractured, now slowly merging. In this peaceful pause, Emma found hope in love's quiet resilience. As midnight deepened, Emma gazed out the bedroom window at the city lights below. Michael's quiet breathing beside her was a comforting rhythm. She no longer feared the shadows of yesterday, but welcomed the fragile light of tomorrow. The journey ahead was uncertain, but she felt stronger, grounded in forgiveness, love, and the courage to hope again. With a final deep breath, she turned to Michael, their hands meeting in the dark. No words were needed. Together, they embraced the new dawn, ready to face life's challenges as one. Their story was far from perfect, but it was real. And that was enough. Dawn broke gently over the city, casting soft pinks and oranges across the skyline. Emma stood on the balcony, breathing in the fresh morning air, feeling the cool breeze whisper promises of a new day. Michael joined her silently, his hand finding hers without words. They shared a quiet smile, the weight of their pasts easing into hope for the future. The horizon stretched endlessly, inviting them forward. This moment was fragile but precious, a symbol of healing and the possibility of joy rebuilt from pain. Together they faced the unknown, ready to write the next chapter. They walked through the quiet city streets, the world slowly waking around them. Conversations flowed naturally, laughter breaking through the remnants of old fears. Emma felt lighter, each step a testament to growth and forgiveness. Michael's presence was steady and warm, no longer a shadow but a partner walking beside her. They paused beneath blooming trees, sunlight filtering through leaves, and shared a gentle kiss, a promise renewed, a future embraced. The pain hadn't vanished, but it had transformed, shaping them into something stronger, something real. Later, they sat in a cozy cafe, the hum of conversation and clinking cups filling the background. Emma traced the rim of her coffee mug, feeling the warmth spread through her fingers. Michael reached across the table, his eyes sincere and open. They spoke of dreams once shelved, of futures imagined with clarity and courage. The weight of mistakes still lingered, but no longer defined them. Here, amid the everyday rhythm, they found peace. In shared hopes, in quiet understanding, in the courage to love despite everything. As afternoon faded into evening, they stood on a bridge overlooking the river, city lights flickering on like distant stars. The air held a quiet magic, a fragile stillness before nightfall. Emma felt Michael's hand tighten around hers, a silent reassurance. The journey had been long and jagged, but every scar was a story of survival and hope. They watched the water flow beneath, endless and renewing. Together, they breathed in the moment, ready to face whatever the future held, no longer apart, but united. Under the starlit sky, Emma and Michael sat wrapped in a shared blanket on a quiet rooftop. The world seemed vast yet intimate in the silence between them. Emma rested her head on Michael's shoulder, feeling the steady beat of his heart beneath the fabric. They had weathered storms no one saw, pain, regret, and the slow work of healing. Now, there was only this moment, fragile and full of promise. The future was unwritten, but with forgiveness as their foundation, they were ready. Together they embraced the night, not as broken souls, but as two hearts beginning anew. Morning light spilled gently into their shared apartment. Emma and Michael moved in quiet harmony, a rhythm born from understanding and healing. The past lingered, but didn't weigh them down anymore. Emma prepared breakfast while Michael set the table, their smiles natural and easy. They spoke softly about hopes and plans, small steps toward rebuilding trust and joy. Each gesture was a promise renewed, a chapter unfolding with patience and grace. This was their beginning, not perfect, but real. Later, they wandered through a bustling city park, surrounded by vibrant autumn colors. Leaves crunched beneath their feet, and laughter from children filled the air. Emma felt a lightness she hadn't known in years. Michael squeezed her hand and she met his gaze. There was no need for words. They stopped by a pond, watching ducks glide across the glassy surface. The moment was simple, but profound. In the ordinary, they found a quiet joy that whispered of second chances, and lasting connection. As twilight deepened, they sat on a park bench overlooking the city skyline. Lights flickered on one by one, and the world seemed to pause with them. Michael pulled Emma close, their warmth a shield against lingering doubts. They talked about forgiveness, not as forgetting, but as freeing themselves from the past. The scars remained, but they no longer defined them. Instead, their shared strength formed a new foundation, steady and true. In this quiet moment, hope felt possible again. Night deepened and the city buzzed faintly around them. They returned home, their steps slow but assured. Inside, the quiet comfort of their space welcomed them back. Emma curled up on the couch with a book while Michael prepared tea. They moved with the ease of people who had rebuilt trust brick by brick. Their past was a shadow, but tonight it felt distant. The present was here, warm and safe. Together they embraced it, the gentle promise of tomorrow shining softly in their eyes. Before sleep, they stood by the window watching the city lights twinkle below. Michael held Emma close, whispering promises of presence and patience. The road had been rough, but their bond was stronger for it. They knew challenges would come, but they would face them together, hand in hand. The night wrapped them in calm, a quiet ending to a day filled with hope. They were no longer broken but healing, no longer afraid but ready. Together they looked forward, to life, love, and the future they would create. The morning air was crisp and fresh as Emma and Michael stepped outside, leaving behind the quiet comfort of the apartment. The city was slowly awakening, a soft golden light filtering through the tall buildings. Each breath they took seemed to cleanse the weight of their past. There was a gentle breeze, carrying the faint scent of blooming flowers and distant coffee shops. Emma felt the stiffness in her shoulders ease for the first time in months. She glanced at Michael, catching the subtle smile on his lips, a smile that spoke of relief and cautious hope. They walked side by side without hurry, their steps in sync, a silent rhythm that had grown over shared days and nights. The streets around them were alive but calm, a mix of early joggers, street cleaners, and a few early commuters. Emma noticed the way the sunlight bounced off Michael's hair, the slight crease near his eyes softened. The man who once haunted her every thought was now the person who anchored her to this new reality. No longer were they prisoners of mistakes, regrets, or misunderstandings. Those chapters, though painful, had paved the way for this fragile peace. Their past had shaped them, yes, but it did not define the path forward. Emma felt a wave of gratitude washing over her, gratitude for second chances, for healing, and for the unpredictable, messy journey that had led them here. Michael's hand brushed hers lightly, a tentative but tender touch that spoke volumes. Emma didn't pull away. Instead, she intertwined her fingers with his, grounding herself in the present moment. There was no need for grand declarations today. Just this simple, shared step toward a future neither dared fully imagine before. "We can take it slow," Michael said quietly, his voice low and steady. "No pressure, just us." Emma nodded, a smile breaking free, warming her face. Just us. The small cafe they chose was a hidden gem, tucked between two bustling streets, its wooden facade inviting and familiar. As they stepped inside, the warmth of the room wrapped around them like a soft blanket. The air was rich with the aroma of freshly ground coffee beans and the sweetness of cinnamon pastries. The faint murmur of conversations and the clinking of cups created a cozy backdrop to their reunion. Emma approached the counter, scanning the menu with a calm focus. Michael lingered nearby, watching her with an expression softened by time and experience. Emma ordered their usual drinks, a black coffee for him, a latte for herself, and picked out a small croissant, their unspoken tradition from better days. They found a quiet corner, settling into a booth with worn leather cushions. The light here was golden and diffused, filtering through stained glass panels and casting colorful patterns on the wooden table. The cafe seemed like a world away from the chaos they had endured. Here, the past was just a whisper beneath the hum of everyday life. Their conversation flowed easily, a mixture of light teasing and heartfelt admissions. Michael spoke about small victories at work. Emma shared the new book she was reading. They laughed together, the sound clear and unguarded. For a moment, the years of pain and distance melted away, leaving only two people who had chosen to try again. Emma noticed how Michael's eyes lit up when he smiled, now, a genuine warmth that hadn't been there before. It was in these small moments, she realized, that trust was rebuilt, not in grand gestures, but in quiet consistency and shared laughter. As the morning sun climbed higher, they lingered, reluctant to leave the safety of this bubble. The future was still uncertain, but for now, they had found a place of peace. The cafe was more than a setting, it was a symbol of their new beginning. Outside the cafe, the city thrummed with life, a tapestry of sounds and colors weaving through the streets. Emma and Michael stepped out hand in hand, feeling the pulse of the city beneath their feet. The day was bright, sunlight filtering through the leaves of old trees lining the sidewalks. Around them life went on, vendors calling out their wares, children playing in a nearby park, the occasional cyclist whizzing past. They wandered slowly, savoring the calm. Emma's eyes caught the vibrant murals painted along a brick wall, splashes of reds, blues, and yellows telling stories of hope and resilience. Michael stopped to admire the artistry, his face lighting up with genuine appreciation. Emma felt a swell of affection for this man who could still find wonder in simple things. They paused in front of an old bookstore, its windows filled with dusty volumes and handwritten signs. Emma's fingers brushed the glass, tracing the faint outlines of stories waiting inside. Michael pulled her gently closer and they exchanged a quiet look. Words weren't needed. It was a shared acknowledgement of how far they'd come. The walk was slow, unhurried. Their steps fell naturally into rhythm, the space between them shrinking until their fingers entwined. Emma felt a lightness she had long forgotten, a buoyancy in her chest that chased away lingering shadows. They spoke softly about small dreams, the places they wanted to visit, the books they wanted to read together. There was an openness in their voices, a newfound willingness to embrace life's uncertainties. For the first time in a long while, the future felt less daunting and more inviting. This was their life now, imperfect and unpredictable, but rich with meaning. Every step they took was a quiet declaration that love, when nurtured with patience and forgiveness, could heal even the deepest wounds. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange, pink, and purple, Emma and Michael found themselves atop a rooftop overlooking the sprawling city. The air was cool and still, carrying the faint sounds of distant traffic and the murmur of life below. The skyline glittered with countless lights, each one a story, a hope, a dream. They stood close together, the silence between them comfortable and full of unspoken understanding. Michael turned to Emma, his eyes reflecting the last golden rays of daylight. He spoke softly, his voice steady and sincere. "I don't have all the answers, and I can't promise it'll always be easy. But I can promise I'm here, for us." Emma met his gaze, feeling the steady strength in his words. She nodded, a tear slipping down her cheek, not of sorrow, but of release. "I'm here too," she whispered. "No more running." They spoke then, quietly, about hopes long buried, about fears still lingering. They made no grand promises but shared honest words, words that grounded them in reality, while allowing room for growth. The city stretched beneath them, vast and full of possibility, mirroring the expanse opening between them. Tonight, they were not two broken people trying to piece together what was lost. They were partners, ready to face whatever came next, knowing that their love was not flawless, but real and resilient. The last light faded, and the first stars appeared. They held each other a little tighter, wrapped in the warmth of newfound hope. Under a canopy of stars, Emma and Michael stood wrapped in each other's arms, the world around them quiet, except for the soft rustling of leaves and their steady breaths. The past was no longer a weight pressing down but a distant landscape, softened by time and forgiveness. Here in this moment, there was only now, fragile, precious, alive. Emma rested her head on Michael's chest, feeling the steady rhythm of his heartbeat beneath her ear. It was a sound that steadied her, a reminder that despite all they had endured, love had endured too. She closed her eyes and let the peace settle deep inside her. Michael held her with a tenderness born from years of learning, from pain turned into wisdom. "We made it," he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. "Together." Emma smiled, the tears now a gentle rain on her cheeks. "Together," she echoed. They stood there, two souls who had been shattered and rebuilt, stronger and more whole. Tomorrow was unwritten, and the future still held uncertainties. But it was theirs, to shape, to cherish, to face side by side. In the vastness of the night sky, under the watchful glow of distant stars, they found their way home. Not to a place but to each other. And for the first time in a long time, that was enough.